Hi everyone, this is your favorite film critic Jay or Jaylan Salah as you formerly know her. And today I have the pleasure of interviewing Argentinian music composer Tomás Videla to talk about one of my favorite adaptations of a modern book. It's The House of the Spirits by Isabel Allende, who is like an author I admire and just adore in all kinds of things. But that TV series adaptation was something else. It was something that I didn't expect. And I think it really, really was great for the fans and for readers worldwide. Tomas, so happy to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
First of all, what got you involved in the project?
It was just a random phone call one day, and they told me about the project, and I couldn't say no. It's such a it's a beautiful novel, and we all know it. Everyone in South America knows it, of course. Everyone read it. I didn't happen to read it because in my school, for some reason, we skipped it. But um, but of course, as soon as I was done, the very first thing I did after wrapping up the show was read the novel. I really couldn't say no, and after watching the first couple episodes, I was like, wow, this is unbelievable.
You're
Just
right.
like all, where they shot everything was just beautiful. So I was like, yeah, we gotta do it. We gotta do it, and we gotta do a good job.
Okay, so when you got the project and you had the project at hand, you were not familiar with the novel, but then what? You had the episodes. Did you have them all beforehand?
Well,
And yeah,
I,
please
I
tell me.
I haven't read the novel, but I did know the story. It's one of
Okay.
those things where it is so well known that you just know the story. So I knew what it was about. But I got involved pretty late in the process, so the episodes were pretty much locked, about like 90-95% there, and so I really had that luxury, which is not common for us composers, to work to a locked picture where stuff is not going to change, and you can really dive in and just get very specific about different points and different things, and Amazon showed me the first three episodes, and then they told me, why don't you watch the whole show? And I was like, great, I'm not gonna say no to
Wow,
that.
exactly.
So I watched in like a weekend. I just watched all eight episodes, and I just went, oh my god, it's gonna be a lot of music, but this is really good. This is really, really, really good. So the next thing was I met with Francisca Alegría, Fernanda Urrejola, and Andres Wood, who are the showrunners. Francisca and Fernanda were the ones who adapted the novel. So I got to chat with them, and we discussed about music, and we talked a lot about what the music should do, what we were going for. We also had that conversation with Courtney from Film Nation, who's just amazing producer, and with the team at Amazon with Adrian Sosa, who's the music exec, who's also incredible, and with Javier Balmaceda, who's the head of Amazon Latin America. So it was a very collaborative process where we all got together. We talked about the music. We talked about what we wanted the music to be. That we wanted the music to have this kind of very catchy tune, or try to have a catchy tune that kind of resonated with different generations, and also we wanted to keep that very the South American folk, for lack of a better word, in the music, but also keep it very cinematic and epic when we had to go. So it was definitely something that I've never heard before, or I've never tried at least. So it was a very it was a learning experience for sure, because it was trying to find like how these two worlds collide and how these two worlds work together, and it was tricky, but the process, just the whole process was really, really a luxury and a pleasure, and a very collaborative one. And Fran and Fred are awesome, really, really, really amazing people, and yeah, I'm really happy.
So you have like multi-layered work. You have like intergenerational stories. You have
Mm-hmm.
three powerful women. You have magical realism. You have political unrest. And there are some intense, difficult scenes inside it. But it's also a story about family at the end of the day. So you want to have like faith to remain faithful to the South American identity, but also to the story itself. How do you balance that as a musician, as someone who composes music?
You know, it's tricky. It's a tricky balance. It's not easy. Um, we had our main theme that resonates all the time. It's mainly it goes mainly with the three women, the three generation of women, with Clara, Blanca, and Alba. Um, that theme kind of keeps coming back, dressed in a different ways, and depending on which decade we're on, the sound around it is going to change too, right? Because it's not the same when you're in like 1920s that when you're in the 70s, and there's all this political unrest, and it's a different era. So we had that kind of like main theme going through the entire show, and that's kind of what connected everyone, right? And then we dressed it up in a different way as the show progressed. We also had a little bit of a, I call it the political theme, which it starts with in the first episode when Nivea is talking to all these women, and she's pushing for the women's vote, and we see Clara who's just looking and absorbing all of this, and we have that theme there that shows up, and then that theme kind of becomes our political. It comes back with Trueba when he's trying to run for senator, and we nobody likes him, so it gets a little bit more twisted and dark. It comes, when there's a coup, it's present there, very dark and very distorted and greedy, and um, so that's another kind of like smaller theme that also kept helping us go through generations and tell the story. And the other really major theme was Rosa's theme. Rosa is such a very important character too. So we had her theme on piano because she's always playing piano, and then that theme kind of like goes into Treba because he's very much in love with her, and as we all know, and it kind of stays with him, but then it starts becoming more twisted and weird as Treba, as we start finding out who really Treba is, and you know he's not a nice guy, and so we have all that thematic work going through the oral 8 episodes, but then they all talk with each other, all those themes, and they always dressed up in a different way too.
How do you take a theme and twist? Like when you're describing, I remember when you are hearing a theme and then you start realizing, wait, the music is changing, something is going on in my ears. But how do you take a theme and twist it? Like I want to understand the process, the musical process of it all, because it's just so intriguing.
This is, I mean, I'm gonna get a little bit more nerdy and into the music, but
Please.
you know, it there's all sorts of resources that we use. Um, I think one of the easiest way to explain it is sometimes you just play the wrong notes. Something that just feels like
Wow.
you're like, oh, that's theme, but then there's a note that's just off, and you're like, oh, that sounded a little bit weird, and you change what's around it. The harmonies suddenly are not that pretty; they're more just weird and dissonant, and the sound too. Sometimes it's not, an orchestra. Sometimes it's just this weird synth pad that's just so kind of like dirty and gritty. So, um, that's how you do it really. That and there's so many. I mean, there's so many other stuff that you can do. I don't want to get too much into it, but
Please do. I mean, I'm like very curious listener because this is for me now you got my mind even to other works where I felt like, oh my God, this really happens when you have like the theme and then it's like gets sinister, and you're like, oh, wait, how did this happen? How did these guys do it? So you like to explain, just
yeah,
go
it's
ahead.
just a matter. It's just changing harmonies. It's changing harmonies, changing orchestrations, changing instruments, changing tempos, making it slower. The political theme, for instance, it has a very march like a tempo, like a very not it's not an upbeat tempo, but it's kind of like medium. But then when we get to Treba, it gets very slow and low and dark, and some of the notes are they're not the same. There's a little bit off here and there, and they're dissonant on purpose, right, to create that feeling. So yeah, there's just a lot going on, and what I like to do sometimes is even like slow down a theme, like slow it down really really a lot, and then play another theme on top, and have them both kind of like having dialogue.
Overlapping.
It's
Wow.
overlapping. Yeah, it's all these like little subtle things that you do as a musician that you do it for the story, of course, but then also you just do it for fun. It's so much fun to just be like, oh, I'm gonna try to figure out how to make these two themes talk to each other. Sometimes they're playing at the same time, sometimes stuff like this is happening. So it's just fun too.
This is what I was going to ask you. Do you have fun with these, like when you have that freedom to create and then distort, and then, like it's like you're a mad scientist in the lab and you're throwing in all these elements, and what comes out sometimes impresses you and makes you realize, oh my God, I didn't expect that. Do you have that
Yeah,
feeling?
for sure. Yeah, 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 yeah. There's a lot of that going on. A lot of just like, oh, I wonder what happens if I just throw this against this, and then suddenly you're like, oh wow, that was pretty cool. All right, let's keep doing that one. So there's a lot. Yeah, there's for sure a lot of that. Yeah.
Okay, do you remember a particular moment where it's like, oh, okay, Tomas, this was.
There was one particular moment where in episode 2 when we get to Trueba, he gets to his kind of like ranch, and he's like, okay, now I'm the owner, I'm the boss, we're gonna work. And there's a section there where it was like an eye-opening experience. It's like, oh, cinematic folk can work. Where I did a dance. They call it chacarera. It's a dance from Argentina, or South America in general.
Yeah.
And but I made it kind of epic, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Okay, Tomas, yeah,
And
that's a
yeah,
moment.
it was one of those moments where like I started the queue, and then 3 hours went by. I didn't even notice,
Oh my
and I was
God.
like, oh, okay. Like I just spent so much time just focused on in it that I was having so much fun that I didn't even realize. And I was just merging these two words, trying to figure out how they could talk to each other. And that cue came up. It's called Las Tres Marias, and it was fun. I look at it now and go like, ah, that was really fun.
Awesome. Okay, Clara and Alba and Blanca. I mean, feel like like at least me, like when you read the novel, you always have like an affinity towards one of those women in particular. Which one was your favorite, and which one was your favorite to compose, or at least compose around her?
Um, Glad I had a lot of fun stuff to do because we see her through so many different generations. So it was always fun. And, with Clara, we have a lot of the magical realism. So that magical realism color is present in the music. It's like woven into the whole score. It's not like a
Exactly.
little thing here and there. It's just like part of the score because that's what magical realism is, right? It's part of the story.
Mhm.
Um, so I think I think Clara was the most fun. Um, I just remembered of a particular scene. I think it was episode 3, if I remember correctly. Um, we were doing the review with Francisca Alegria, who's the director for that episode, and we got to the scene where, uh, Clara is not talking to Trueba again because she found out all the nasty stuff that he does, and Trueba's desperate trying to talk to her, and there was a moment where Claudia's like, I'm pregnant again with Jaime, and and Trueba goes like, oh, he's gonna be called Esteban, and she's like, no, it's gonna be called Jaime, and then Esteban just loses it completely, and Alfonso Herrera does a great job of just being kind of an asshole, and just getting really
Exactly.
angry, and then Nicole Wallace in that section, she's just looking at him and going like, do you realize that you can move your ears when you get angry? And that point, which I completely missed when I was doing the cue, Fran was like, "We need to mark that point. How she just like has this beast, just completely crazy, and she
Exactly.
just keeps calm and goes like disarms him in just one little phrase, kind of like." So that was fun. So there were a couple of those moments like this throughout with Clara in general that were really fun. Um, Blanca was also interesting because of her whole journey. She's married off to this French guy, and she's not having a great time, and we had to achieve some sort of like out of it sound for her during that entire time, where she's just it's in around episode 5, and she's just completely out of it. She's just like getting married to this guy that she doesn't even like, and she misses Pedro, and so kind of trying to find that sound for those moments with Blanca was really, really, really fun and interesting.
Well, I love the magical realism because when I watched, there was an adaptation, an American adaptation that completely eliminated the magical realism aspect of it. And I think it was very disappointing for me as a viewer.
Mhm.
So to see it here now, because it's part of the world, like this is the world and it exists, how do you incorporate like the music of the magical realism? Because I feel like this is such a very difficult concept to wrap your mind around it. So how do you
It
as a
is. It
musician do
really
it?
is, and it kind of came organically, I think, really, when I started working on the show, because you want to have some sort of element that signals the audience this is magic, but you don't want that element to draw too much attention, right? This is not Harry Potter. We're not, we're not doing all this weird stuff,
Wizarding
repeating.
foo. Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
we're not doing that. This is more of like a, oh, that was magic, okay, and then you just keep, you're staying in the story. You're not focused on that. So,
Yeah,
um, it was a matter of implementing some elements, but not making it too distracting and too like calling attention to themselves. It was more about like, oh, that's just another element of the score. We have guitars, we have charangos, we have, all this folk stuff. We have the orchestra, and then we have the celeste and some bells of magical realism. Okay, great. That's the entire score. We're not calling attention to just that part. It's a whole thing. That's it's. I think it's if you think about how magical realism works, it's that it's just a magical element in in a normal world.
exactly. Tiny
And
elements embedded here and there.
exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. And even in the book, when you read the book, you see that there's this whole backstory with Nevia seeing how Clara has magic powers, but they don't think too much about it. They're just like, yeah, whatever, Clara, it can
It's
move the salt
Clara.
shake. Like, it's
Exactly.
fine. Yeah. It's totally fine. Like, this is totally normal. Don't worry about it. So it was kind of trying to find the music to treat it that same way, right? The same way as Severo and Nevia treat the powers of her daughter. Just like, yeah, it's fine. Just can you pass me the salt? Yeah, it's fine. She's doing some magic. Don't worry about it. They're like in their own little bubble. It's fine. So that's the metaphor for the score, for the magical realism in the score. It's just trying to be like that element that just doesn't. You're just like, oh yeah, magic, sure, and then you're staying in the story, right?
Yes. But how do you, as the composer, make the music? Okay, it's an element on its own. It's like another hero, but you also don't make it like overwhelm the storytelling or the world itself. How do you do this? How do you put it in the background, but it's not in the background 100%?
That's just, I mean, years of practice, I guess. But it's also, it's also a very collaborative process with the showrunners and Amazon. Sometimes I'm tempted to just go all out there, and write some crazy stuff, and then
Guns blazing with your music. Yes.
yeah,
Hmm.
and then the showrunners come in and they're like, "That's beautiful, but no, that's not what we want here. We want," and you're like, "Oh, sorry, I missed the point. My bad." And then there's one, for instance, there's one moment again with Fran Alegria. I love her. She's amazing, amazing director. Um, where we were, I can discuss this now because all episodes are out, but
They're
in
out.
episodes,
And we
yeah.
will put
So
spoiler warning. Don't worry.
yeah. So in episode 6, we finally see, Ferula shows up in the house, and the whole family sees her for the first time, and everyone's like, what the hell? And she's announcing, announcing to Clara that basically she passed away. That's how Clara finds out. And you know, first and foremost, you have two amazing actresses who are Fernanda Castillo and Dolores Fonsi, who I love both. Dolores Fonsi is
Brilliance.
Argentinian, so I have, she has a special place in my heart. But that moment, I originally, went all in with orchestra, and I was, kind of reprising the moment where Ferula got expelled in episode 3 as a kind of as a callback. And when I had the call with Fran, where we were discussing the episode, she was like, "That's beautiful, but we want this to be more of a magical kind of like bubble that builds in this, suddenly because everyone can see her, so it's like it's a complete different direction." And I was like, "Oh, that's super interesting. I didn't think of that." So, then you kind of like get that information that was given to you, and now you try to find a different way to approach that same scene and not really overwhelm it, or really make it work. And, every single time you're like, "Oh yeah, that works 10 times better."
Well, okay. Do you have like a favorite moment beyond the music? Like, was there a moment that felt like clenched your heart, or you felt like mesmerized by it, even if you looked at it away from your role as the composer?
um,
Because you
the
mentioned a lot of
whole
great moments there. Seriously.
the one moment that really that I want to say shock, because I can't think of a better word, but I mean it
Wow.
did shock me because she's amazing. Is watching episode 3 and seeing Fernanda Castillo as Ferula was unbelievable. She's amazing, and it was one of those when I would start working at the episode, I would like watch a scene that I'm working on, and then suddenly 20 minutes go by and I've been watching the episode. And I completely forgot that I'm working on a scene just because I'm just watching the episode. And I'm like, wait, hold on, dude. Like concentrate. We gotta do some work here. We're not watching the episode. So that was a moment where I was like, wow, she's really good. She's really, really, really good. And then that whole moment, where she gets expelled and she just starts walking into the fog, and Clara's running around, running behind her, trying to, call her back to come back. And that whole moment, I was just like, this is unbelievable. And I mean,
Spectacular
I'm
moment.
saying it, forget about my music, just that whole scene, how it was,
Very
shot, and
cinematic.
it was just like, wow, this is crazy. This is really, really, really good. And that, her whole performance was just unbelievable and really shocked me because I was like, wow, like what? Like I need to watch this again. Like what
Me
is
too.
this? This is unbelievable.
I feel
Yeah, it's really, really good.
I feel like I will log off our interview and then I will go back and watch some of the scenes
Yeah.
that you mentioned because I feel like I want to marvel in their beauty. You're absolutely right.
They're amazing. And the funniest thing that happens to me now is like I'm just like I'm on Instagram and I will see a reel about a certain scene, and I'm just like, again, just staying like watching it as a, not as a composer. I'm forgetting about what I'm just watching as a spectator, and I'm like, this is, I was like, oh god, this is really good.
And it does this to you. This series seriously is like one of the best adaptations that I've seen. It's perfect. It has all the elements. So, Thomas, what is next for you now that you're said goodbye? Was it easy saying goodbye to this world? Because it
It was
stays
not.
with you.
It really wasn't easy because it's 8 episodes. There's a lot of music,
Yes.
so it's difficult to create the world, and then you live in it, and once you live in it, you just know, everything. You know how to do every emotion. You kind of already know how to do it, and then the moment you're done and you have to jump into a different project, it it's really difficult to kind of leave, kind of be like, all right, I forgot about it, bye, and then go into a whole new different world. It's very, very difficult. It takes some time. I happen to just go back to Argentina for 2 weeks to visit family, so I kind of took a little bit of a break in after wrapping up 8 episodes. I took a little bit of a break to kind of just refresh and try to get my, you know, blank page, new thing. It is very difficult. It's still, I came back and I was still like, oh my God, I'm still like
You're
remembering
still
all the,
there.
yeah, I'm still there. I can't. So I'm just now kind of coming out of it now that I can, some time went by and I can, I have also videos of, I've been uploading some videos of the orchestra playing, all this stuff. So I can really like now take a step back and kind of see the whole picture and be like, okay, great.
You
Now I
have
can
put a
move on.
distance exactly
Yeah,
between yourself and
exactly.
so do you have
Yeah.
something else in the works? Like, are you working on
I
something?
I am I can't really talk about it that much. I
Okay,
know.
Tomas.
I know.
But is it a cool
I was just
project?
now. It is a really cool project, and I think people are gonna love it. I think people are gonna really love it. It's not. But there's two, mainly two coming going on right now. But one of them is a documentary that I think people are gonna really love.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm a sucker for documentaries. I will definitely be tuning in. I just adore Tomas. I don't know what to say. Thank you for taking me on this journey with you because it's amazing to talk about music, about magical realism, about Isabella Allende, about this world in general. So thank you for this time.
Yeah, of course. And thank you for watching the show and for giving it all the love. And it's really nice going on social media and seeing how much everyone's liking the show and seeing all it's just like amazing. And it's also I told this to Franfer too. It's amazing seeing all the people that worked on it. VFX, makeup,
I wish I
you
could
know,
talk to everyone. Like I
yeah,
really
everyone.
want to
It's
because
just
there's a lot of work
it's
behind this.
there's a lot and but it's also everyone is like pushing in the same direction. Everyone is proud and showing what they do and so, that's also really nice to see how everyone in the project is on board and we're all kind of pushing, we're proud of what, of what we made and we're, really pushing for it and seeing all this love from everyone, it's really unbelievable. And I always laugh seeing people who are like, only 2 episodes, we need more. I can't be, I need more. I can't stay here. So that was always fun. That was always really fun and nice to see.
Awesome. Well, the episodes are now on Amazon. Watch them, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tomas. This was a journey and a dream.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.